So here's why I've been thinking about 1989. I've been putting together a playlist of old music that I love from my junior high and high school stage, as well as a little bit into college. And that fits right in that 1989 timeframe because I graduated from high school in 1991. So I've gone back and I've pulled all of these songs that I connected with and the ones that were the soundtrack of those formidable years. That was music that I found. That was music that I loved. It was very personal. It wasn't stuff that anybody else um, influenced me as much with. So Erasure was a big one. New Order, Depeche Mode, Anything Box, Pet Shop Boys, Yaz, Howard Jones even in there. There's Thompson Twins, Alphaville, Duran Duran, Information Society. In excess, we've got some UB40 in there, and there's, so much eclectic music that I loved. But I was looking through all of that kind of music and thinking about that era for me. And I started thinking about how it is in relation to my current favorites in music, which obviously Taylor's right at the top of that. And honestly and truly, Taylor has kind of ruined me for all my old favorites because she is such a storyteller. And I've gone back, and all of these songs back in the late 80s, early 90s are so repetitive. There's not a lot of story to them. There's not a lot of meat. It's like three phrases that are over and over and over and over. And the music is very much the same. So I love the music. I love it. I still, it takes me back to that time and all the feelings and all the things that I was dealing with back in high school. But I've started really analyzing all of that music because Taylor has given me such a different approach to music, and that there are these stories within it. And she is not super repetitive, except a little bit in 1989, a little bit in
True.
Reputation. But that's one of the elements of her 1989 album that I found super accurate is the repetition. And, after going back and looking through all of the music that I loved and putting a big playlist together, that is one of its strongest characteristics is that repetition of over and over and over. Another thing I thought was very interesting as I was going through my older favorites is how little female representation in this playlist that I made of all my old favorites. There are 94 songs total. And I started thinking about the lack of female representation as I was listening to it. I was like, wait a second, where are they? Where are the female artists? And I went through and I counted how many songs were female artists out of the 94. There are six. Six out of
Oh my
94
gosh.
in my playlist of the songs that really shaped my high school years and into college. And it floored me. And I thought Taylor Swift has changed more than just what music is and the lyrics and the depth behind it, but she's also changed, I think, the representation of females because she paved the way for so many others. And I know there were others at the time when Taylor came onto the scene. But if you look at awards and if you look at radio time and if you look at all of that, the female representation, I believe, would have at least increased after Taylor came on the scene. One of the other things I noticed about all of this playlist was how much was focused on love and how, I mean, come on, music has always been centered around love and relationships. And I just started to get really annoyed by that notion that she writes more about love than anybody or than most people because music has always centered around love. And it's proof in that playlist of mine that I would say 90% of those songs are about love and relationships. So those are some fun things that I have been thinking about with comparing the music that I love back then to not only her album 1989, but to her as a whole and the music industry as a whole now, because it's changed a lot. And maybe it was just my, the music I was drawn to or the style I was drawn to. I know there were female artists back then, but in this style and what I was drawn to, there were not a lot of females represented in that group.
I mean, it's something I've never thought about because the year 1989 means nothing to me. It's just a Taylor Swift album. So this is
Hmm.
all just new thoughts that I don't have that personal connection with. To me, it's just a very retro album that, these sounds and the style of the music that she has in that album is just, it's unique to me because it's not stuff that I would usually listen to, but it's also very her, which I do very much listen to. And so that's
Well, and I also recognize that in her talking about who her influences were and who she listened to in building 1989, I don't think she ever mentioned any of my bands. So to be fair, she was not drawing from that kind of music that I was drawn to at the time. So my 1989 was obviously very different than another person's 1989 because of the music they were listening to or the style that they were or like what they were drawn to. So I mean, I acknowledge that her 1989 is a product of those things she was listening to and what she was drawn to and what she wanted to accomplish. Because, like we said, her 1989 was still very current. It wasn't like
Mhm.
you were listening to it and going, "Oh, that's old. That should be on the oldies station." It never was like that.
No, yeah, for sure.